What's up gamers, Cryptico here, and welcome back to Lowering the Mark, a show where I analyze the current and former world records of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe time trial runs to see how these records get faster over time. We'll look at elements such as the loadout, racing lines, and mushroom usage to better understand what's bringing these times down. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when my videos go live. For today's episode, we're shifting back down to normal speed and checking out one of the most beloved tracks in the game's history. Of course, I'm talking about Royal Raceway at 150cc. On April 28, 2017, the world record for this run was set at 1 minute 59.812 seconds by the American player Cinda. At the end of last year, on December 15, 2020, the world record was brought down to 1 minute 55.831 seconds by the Japanese legend Somen. That's nearly a 4-second difference between records and a 3.3% faster time. Our former world record holder Cinda has broken 32 world records across 11 unique runs and has just spent over 100 days holding at least one world record, with his longest lasting one holding for 55 days. As you probably don't remember, our current world record holder Somen has broken 104 world records across 17 unique runs and has spent over 1,000 days holding at least one world record. Today's record is actually the most recent one of his 5 current world records. At pre-release, the world record was just over 2 minutes and would quickly make its way down to 158 territory thanks to Japanese player Fleet in May of 2017. For the next 5 months, French player Demon would lead the charge and bring the record all the way down to 157, posting multiple records that would hold for over 100 days in the process. 2018 would see Demon and a few new players try to chip away at that high 157, and right about now is where Japanese player Low Rain came in and headlined a new wave of records on the way down to 156. His 157.02 held for over 430 days before another Japanese player came in and beat it, only for Low Rain to get the sub over a week later. 2019 wound down with Somen putting up a few times before Stir went on a tear in 2020, putting up 9 of the next 10 world records. At this point, it's Somen and Stair going back and forth on the way down to 155, and it would be Stair who got the sub first, but Somen took it down further to claim the world record that still stands to this day. In total, the world record was broken 90 times by 16 different players. Similar to last episode, these two loadouts are pretty similar in terms of performance. Cinda goes with the combo of the Heavy Me character driving the sneaker cart with the roller wheels and the super glider. Somen goes with the meta loadout of Waluigi driving the Biddy Buggy cart with the roller wheels and the paper glider. If we take a look at the overall performance of these two loadouts, you'll see that they are more well balanced than not across the top speed and handling stats. Cinda leads on the former, but Somen substantially leads on the latter. The advantage in acceleration and mini turbo stays with Somen as well thanks to this meta combo. Cinda definitely could have kept it closer by not picking the super glider, but this record was from a time where nobody thought the glider was important. This is one of those courses that I not only like to time trial, but I also like to race on it. The GP style track makes this course all about good driving and has just the right amount of fancy strats that aren't too difficult to pick up. Cinda starts off the race with a rocket start and gets around the first turn with a quick mini turbo before going wide on the second turn to get 3 coins and a super mini turbo. After that, he picks up another super mini turbo around the next turn and a quick normal one before the end of this section. After hopping around like a madman for a few seconds, Somen grabs that same quick mini turbo around the first turn but cuts a bit of it out due to this well-timed hop. After that, we see the similar wide second turn to get the 3 coins and the super mini turbo. On the following turn, Somen gets an ultra mini turbo instead before charging up his next one as he nears the end of this section. Not much time saved right out of the gate, but Somen is just beginning to pile on the time saves as he sits ahead of Cinda by just over 1/10 of a second going into S2. Cinda rides out this straight part for a few seconds before chaining 2 quick mini turbos together and hopping over the grass onto the ramp for a no item shortcut. When he lands, he picks up 2 coins around the next turn and rides out the boost of the super mini turbo all the way to the glider ramp. Somen is still charging up a mini turbo from S1 and he gets the boost from a super one before hitting that same quick mini turbo chain and taking the no item shortcut with slightly better positioning. After hitting that same mini turbo around the next turn, Somen charges up another quick mini turbo before starting a drift just before the glider ramp at the end of this section. Now it becomes apparent that Somen is carrying more speed and hitting the nisks a little better as he adds a few more tenths to his lead, which now sits at 6/10 of a second at the end of S2. Cinda just hits the casual jump boost off of the glider ramp and grabs the 2 coins when he lands. After that, he uses his first mushroom to cut through this huge patch of grass before chaining together 2 more mini turbos and a super mini turbo throughout the final turns before the finish line. Remember like 30 seconds ago when I told you Somin was charging up a mini turbo before the glider ramp? Well, in S3, he performs another one of those motion glider things and gets the boost of the mini turbo off the glider as opposed to a regular jump boost. After he lands, it's the same mushroom cup for him, but on that first turn after that, he performs a nifty little hop over the side strip before chaining together the last few mini turbos of the lap. Somin has definitely shown us that he knows the route better than anyone and was able to execute each maneuver pretty well as he sits well over 1.3 seconds ahead of Cinda at the end of the lap. The only difference for Cinda in S1 is that since there's no more coins to collect, he takes that second turn much tighter while still getting the same mini turbo arrangement as he did on lap 1. Somin throws in that extra mini turbo right after crossing the finish line before performing that same little hop over the first turn and taking the next turn much tighter as Cinda did and finishes out S1 the same way as he did on lap 1 as well. I've said before that those little turn skips and extra mini turbos really do add up to save time, and Somin is putting on a clinic as he extends his lead to 1.5 seconds at the end of S1. Cinda pulls off the same tight line mechanics and no item shortcut through S2 as he did on lap 1, with the exception being the turn taken after he lands being much tighter due to no coins being available. After that, he just rides out the boost of the super mini turbo and the zippers up to the glider ramp to start S3. The same can be said for Somin. Even after getting that super mini turbo, he's still able to chain two quick ones together to line himself up for that same no item shortcut again. Rounding that turn when he lands, he picks up another quick mini turbo on the way up the ramp and begins charging up another one just before the glider. Not much new stuff to get excited about, but Somin was able to execute all those tricks again, which means his lead has only increased by a substantial margin as it sits at just under 2 seconds going into S3. So we're just going to glance over Cinda's S3 because it's pretty much the same as what we saw on lap 1. Instead, I'm going to try to elaborate a little further on the motion glider that Somin does. Now we gotta rewind a bit for this one, so buckle up. Charging up a mini turbo off of a glider ramp without releasing it causes the boost to go off in the air, but what you don't see happen is Somin pauses the game and turns on motion controls to align himself much better than he could without them, while also salvaging all the boost of that mini turbo. For whatever reason, this ends up being faster than just going straight off and hitting a jump boost. Once he lands from that complicated flight, Somin just takes the same shortcut and chains together the last few mini turbos before the finish line, where he leads Cinda by well over 2.5 seconds after outsplitting him by 1.3 seconds on lap 2. Now, I swear I'm not being lazy, these runs are just really similar, and I'm sure you're already tired of me talking by this point, but I hope you keep your ears open for this. I'm going to be taking a small break from this series after episode 35. Some things came up and I won't be in a position to make the videos on a weekly basis after that episode drops. I plan to have season 4 resume at the end of February, but I'll let you know if that changes. Of course, I'd love to be here making these videos every week, but life got in the way and unfortunately I needed to step back earlier than I had intended to. I do have some other videos in the work that I plan to put out during that absence, so make sure you stay tuned for that. One channel update later, and we're at the end of the race where we saw Somin hit every single one of his time saves yet again to post the world record time that ended up being just a hair under 4 seconds faster than Cinda's former world record. Somin made this record happen by hitting various small turn skips, carrying speed more effectively, and jumping on the motion glider trend for those extra few milliseconds. It's a pretty cool run to watch, and I wish Somin and I could have talked more about it, but that didn't happen this time, so let's skip ahead to the best known splits. The best known splits for this run show that there's still some time that can be knocked off, but that time is more evenly spread out across all 3 laps than most runs usually are. Each split of the world record has anywhere from 1 to 4 frames that can be knocked off, with lap 1 being the closest to the fastest known split. The record laps 2 and 3 are pretty good, but there's still a few adjustments that need to be made before we see a faster time as notated by the best known splits. Somin owns all 3 of these splits and the world record, which means we probably won't see anyone else step in and get the time down closer to that best known time. The worldwide top 10 consists of 8 really good Japanese players and 2 of Europe's best players. Somin sits at the top, Dutch player Stur is right behind him with the only other 155 in the world, and fellow Japanese player Reijin sits in 3rd almost half a second back from Somin. 4th and 5th place belong to Japanese player Piku and the French player Army, with a bit over 1/10 of a second separating them. Most of the bottom half of the leaderboard is only separated by less than 5/100ths of a second and include more Japanese players such as Hiki, Scary, Ronnie, and Torain. Rounding off the top 10 is another Japanese player named Nanase, who sits well over a second behind the world record. We all know how good Somin is at this game, but Stur isn't that far behind him, and there's still those few frames that can be knocked off, so we could see a little competition for the top time in the future. Maybe. That's all for episode 34. Hope you found it interesting. Shout out to Ty Johnson for suggesting this course. It was really fun to take a look at, and I'm glad I got to make this episode. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your friends, and comment on which course you'd like me to analyze next. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.